Two Chairs No Waiting, episode number 606, Mayberry Days Trivia Championship 2020. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you each week by the fine folks over at Weaver's Department Store. Drop by over at Weaver's and check out some of the Mayberry finest coffees, bacon, jams, pickles. Man, go and check that out. While you're over there, hey, the year's coming to an end. You might want to get a 2021 Andy Griffith Show wall calendar to hang up on your wall. Or maybe you want some pickles there. You want maybe some T-shirts. There's all that kind of stuff. Head over to weaversdepartmentstore.com and check it out. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners just like you. The executive producer of episode number 606 is Sarah Blaine. So, hey, thank you, Sarah, for supporting the show, and thank you for being here with us. This is always fun to just have this time to spend some time in Mayberry. And this week is an awesome week because we're going to get to kind of play through the questions from the Mayberry Days Trivia Championship. The Trivia Championship. So this is like the Super Bowl of Mayberry Trivia. And we talked about this back on episode number 602. We did the qualifying round. So if you haven't done that, you can head back over to twocairsnowaiting.com and look for episode number 602. You can just, in the search bar, if you type 602, you'll probably be able to find it. Or you just scroll down just a little, depending on when you're hearing this, and you'll be able to find that. And there's a link going to be in the show notes on episode number 606 as well. So you'll be able to get to this. I'll make sure you can play the qualifying round if you haven't. And then you're going to get to play the finals. So at Mayberry Days, here's how the finals work. Okay, so the first round is 10 questions, and each question is worth 100 points if you get it correct. If you miss it, it's minus 100 points. Okay, so it's 100 if you get it, minus 100 if you miss it. So you're going to need maybe a piece of paper and a pencil or just a good memory. And some people will be able to do okay because they won't get any questions right or anything. So they will be able to keep their score pretty easy. That would be me. But that's how it works. So round one, that's how it works. And then round two will be worth 200 points or minus 200 if you miss it per question. And then there's a bonus round at the end where you'll get to bet. Well, let's don't say bet. We're not into gambling. You get to wager however many points you have earned. You can use that many points to double your score or add a nickel, whatever you do. Okay, it's not nickels. Add a point, whatever you do. If you're negative points, you just get to play the finals for fun. Okay, all right. So everybody understand that. So that's how we're going to play. Except, and I'll talk just a little bit more about that in a minute. But Randy Turner is going to be coming up after the trivia with his This Week in Mayberry History, his fifth part of No Time for Sergeants he'll be talking about. So, man, stick around for that as well. All right, so everybody ready to go? Let's head over and pull up the trivia. All right, so if you're watching the video version, you're going to be able to see the trivia questions. And if you're not watching, I'm going to read them to you anyway, so you'll be fine. All right, so at Mayberry Days, also, I should tell you the way that it works in these two rounds, in round one and round two, for the championship rounds, you have to buzz in like you do on Jeopardy or something. You would have to know the answer and buzz in to get it right. Well, we can't play it that way here on the podcast. So we're just everybody's going to get a chance. You get a chance to answer every question and just see what your score is. All right, so folks in the chat room are playing. So we'll be able to kind of maybe give some feedback about how people in the chat room are going. I should mention that in our chat room, as we're doing this live show on Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern time, you can join us if you'd like. But Jim Sherrill is in the room. He's in the chat room. He is our Mayberry Days Trivia Champion. So he is the champion for these questions we're about to go through. He won. 5th year in a row he won. The runner-up was Mike Jones. And he did very well. He qualified in the qualifying round that we had back on episode 602. He qualified to be in this finals. All right. So I'm going to get some background music going for us for good old Mayberry trivia. A little happy music. All right. So here we go. Mayberry Days trivia Round one. Question one. Everybody, 100 points. Here's question one. Name Peggy's college friend who shared a table with her in chemistry class. Question one, worth 100 points. Name Peggy's college friend who shared a table with her in chemistry class. Okay. All right. So try to get your answer in. If you don't know it, or if you want some more time, you can hit pause and try to think of it. But here's the answer. What's the name of Peggy's college friend who shared a table with her in chemistry class? Her friend's name was Dawn. Wouldn't you know it'd be Dawn? That's from episode number 68 of the Andy Griffith Show. By the way, that answer came from. So his name was Don. Did you get it right? It's worth 100 points if you did. It's worth minus 100 if you got it incorrect. All right. Question number 2. Nearsighted Luke Jensen shows up in Mayberry after recently being released from what county jail? It's worth 100 points. So Luke Jensen showed up in Mayberry after recently being released from what county jail? Okay. Do you know it? Keep up with it, and folks in the chat room will be able to tell me their scores, and that way you can kind of judge yourself against those. Jim is a judge. He's answering that. So the answer is, what jail was Luke Jensen recently released from? It was Asheville. And that's from episode number 70 of the Andy Griffith Show. All right, so that's question 2. There's 10 questions in round number 1. Question 3. Name the lady who serves refreshments at Mrs. Wiley's weekly social for 100 points. Name the lady who serves refreshments at Mrs. Wiley's weekly social. All right, buzz in if you know it. Get your answer in. Pause it if you want to have a little more time. And here's the answer. The name of the lady who serves refreshments at Mrs. Wiley's weekly social is Mildred. Her name's Mildred. That's episode number 113. 113. All right, have you got 300 points? How you doing? If you got plus 300 points, that's, if you guess, it gets you into the negative, so don't guess. You got to get it right. All right. Number 4. What day of the week does Floyd say Barney usually gets his hair cut? What day of the week does Floyd say Barney usually gets his hair cut? For 100 points. All right. The answer is the day of the week that Floyd says Barney usually gets his hair cut is Monday. It's on Monday. That's from episode number 131. So you could have up to 400 points. Folks in the chat room or at least one is saying minus 300 points. So that was before they got question 4, I believe. All right, question 5 for 100 points. Goober mails 2 copies of his chain letter. One went to his cousin Gomer. Who received the second letter? Oh, I think I know this one. Goober mails 2 copies of his chain letter. One went to his cousin Gomer. Who received the second letter? For 100 points. For 100 points. I think I might actually know one. You know, the sad thing is I wrote these questions out to put them, so I don't know. All right, the answer is Goober sent the second copy of the chain letter to Aunt Floy. Aunt Floy. It's his aunt. F-L-O-Y. Floy. Aunt Floy. Just a little trivia for you. That was George Lindsay's aunt's name. That was really her name. That's from episode number 146. 146. Aunt Floy. Jim Sherrill, he got it in the chat room. All right. Number 5, worth 100. No, I'm sorry. Number 6, worth 100 points. According to Bob Rogers, the Green River Ordinance was inspired by a case that occurred in what year? For 100 points. According to Bob Rogers, the Green River Ordinance was inspired by a case that occurred in what year? Okay, what year was it? What year was the Green River Ordinance? The answer is 1924. 1924 is the answer. Oh, folks in the chat room, we're so close. 1923, but that's not right. It's 1924. That's from episode number 33. 33. All right. So Jim is getting them right. He's actually checking my answers. Number 7. According to Johnny Paul Jason, eating burnt food will give you a what? I know this one. Yeah, I know one. According to Johnny Paul Jason, eating burnt food will give you a good what? All right. That's number 7. It's worth 100 points. The answer that according to Johnny Paul Jason, eating burnt food will give you, the answer is a good singing voice. That's right. Some folks in the chat room got it. Yeah. All right. So how you doing? So have you got 700 points or at least a positive score? That's the goal. All right. That was from episode number 65, by the way, if I didn't say. All right. Number 8. Number 8. Who is accused of stealing chickens from Al's poultry headquarters in Mayberry? Who is accused of stealing chickens from Al's poultry headquarters in Mayberry? That's number 8, worth 100 points. The answer is, who was accused of stealing chickens from Al's poultry headquarters in Mayberry? The answer is Buzz Jenkins. Buzz Jenkins. That's episode number 77. It wasn't Diamond Jim. That was some of the answers in the chat room there. I see. All right. 9. Number 9. There's 2 questions left in this round, so we have 200 points left on the table. Here we go. Question number 9. Who did Andy replace as the sheriff of Mayberry? Who did Andy Taylor replace as the sheriff of Mayberry? That's worth 100 points if you get it right, minus 100 if you miss it. All right. The answer is, who did Andy replace as sheriff of Mayberry? The answer is Dale Buckley. Dale Buckley. Oh, they're saying Poindexter in the chat room, but it's Dale Buckley. That's from episode number 106. Oh, the chat room. A lot of people thought it was Poindexter, Sheriff Poindexter, but nope. Dale Buckley was the sheriff Andy replaced. And the final question in round number 1, worth 100 points, number 10. Where does Aunt Bee keep her soup ladle? Where does Aunt Bee keep her soup ladle? Oh, that's a hard one. Where does Aunt Bee keep her soup ladle? Her soup ladle? She keeps it in a drawer in the bottom of the stove. She keeps it in a drawer in the bottom of the stove. That's where it is. That's the answer. And that's from episode number 124. Yep, in the oven drawer. That's where you say. If you said that, an oven drawer or a drawer in the stove, but it's in the bottom of the stove. You got that? All right, so there, you got it right. So that's 10 questions, each worth 100 points. So the chat room is now beginning to report their scores. The scores are beginning to roll in here before round number 2. I'm seeing minus 100, minus 300. I see a few. Brisket, you're not really minus 1,000. She's in the chat room. So hopefully you're doing better than the chat room. Jim Sherrill has 1,000 points, by the way. He got them all. All right. So some of them getting there. Several people are in a positive. Skinny Griffin's having some problems in the chat room with his actual counting skills because he thinks he has 157 points. A minus 157. So, all right, going on to round number 2. Everybody ready? So even if you have a negative point score, you have got a chance to catch back up because everything's worth 200 points in round number 2. All right, everybody ready? So question 1 of round number 2, the championship round, all of the questions in round 2 are worth 200 points or minus 200 if you miss it. All right, so question number 1. Who did Helen Crump replace as Opie's teacher? Who did Helen Crump replace as Opie's teacher? All right, everybody's got a chance. All right, who did Helen Crump replace as Opie's teacher? All right, the answer is Helen Crump replaced Miss Warner. Miss Warner. That's from episode number 86. She replaced Miss Warner as Opie's teacher. All right. Jim Sherrill, he got it right in the chat room. All right, but he's a 5-time trivia champion. See, that's why these questions are this hard, folks. Jim Sherrill. It's not just Jim. The past champions can all get these things. It's amazing. All right, question number 2. How many years did Dud Wash serve in the Army? It's worth 200 points. How many years did Dud Wash serve in the Army? He's been off serving his country. How many years was it? All right, the answer is he served 3 years. Oh, folks in the chat room are getting this one. Good job. I see it. 3 years. That's from episode number 88. That's question 2. Worth 200 points. Just keeping up with your score. All right, here we go. Question number 3, worth 200 points. What did the Morrison sisters charge for a jar of their elixir? What did the Morrison sisters charge for a jar of their elixir? Now, it's not just for guzzling. It's for special occasions. So what do they charge for their elixir? How much is a jar? All right. How much do they charge for a jar of their elixir? The answer is they charge $4. Oh, folks in the chat room are getting this one as well. $4. That's worth 200 points if you got that right. That's from episode number 17. Their elixir. It's not just for plain old guzzling. And it costs $4 for a jar of it. I don't know. $4 was a lot of money back then, wasn't it? Let's see. All right. Number 4. Also worth 200 points. Aunt Bee and her friends in the Ladies Auxiliary once had a rummage sale that raised enough money to buy the school what? Okay, I'm read it again. Aunt Bee and her friends in the Ladies Auxiliary once had a rummage sale that raised enough money to buy the school what? Okay, it's worth 200 points if you know it. You can pause if you want a little more time. But the answer is they raised enough money in the rummage sale to buy a new public address system, a new PA system, a sound system. I'll give you that if you got that. If there's some interesting answers coming into the chat room, but a new public address system, that was from episode number 28. All right. Number 5, 200-point question. According to Barney, whose records, quote, have that certain effect, end quote, on Thelma Lou? According to Barney, whose records have that certain effect on Thelma Lou? I got one. This is sad. I don't know the answers, and I just wrote these up yesterday. All right. The answer is, according to Barney, whose records have that certain effect on Thelma Lou? It's worth 200 points, and the answer is Cole Porter. Cole Porter, that's from episode number 49. Henry Bennett is a jinx. He is. That's the jinx. All right. Cole Porter. Yeah, there you go. All right. Number 6. For 200 points, name Opie's second grade teacher. For 200 points, name Opie's second grade teacher. Oh. Name Opie's second grade teacher. The answer is Opie's second grade teacher. Her name is Mrs. Cox. Mrs. Cox. That's from episode number 60. Mrs. Cox. All right. Opie's second grade teacher. All right. That was worth 200 points, or minus 200 if you missed it. Here we go. Number 7. Number 7. Where did Ralph Haynes' wife attend high school? Where did Ralph Haynes' wife attend high school? Oh my goodness. You know, the sad part is these are a little easier than they used to be. All right, the answer is, where did Ralph Haynes' wife attend high school? She went to Paul Revere High School. That's from episode number 82. Paul Revere High School. That's where she went. All right, there you go. Paul Revere High School. Number 8, also worth 200 if you get it right. Andy plays the tuba in the town band. Where does he store his tuba? Andy plays the tuba in the town band. Where does he store this tuba? Where does he store it? Okay, pause if you don't want to try to answer. If you want a few seconds more. But the answer is, Andy keeps his tuba in the garage. That's right. That's episode number 100. Not 99, but 100. So he kept it in the garage. We have 2 questions remaining in round number 2. Question number 9. What is the Monday special at Morelli's restaurant? What is the Monday special at Morelli's restaurant? Oh. Okay, go ahead and pause if you want some more time. The Monday special at Morelli's restaurant is creamed chicken. Creamed chicken. That's from episode number 155. Creamed chicken. That's not what it costs. Folks in the chat room are getting the price. No, what is the Monday special? $1.75 is what they're saying. That could be correct, but that's not. It's the special, not the price of the special. All right, number 10, our last question. Last question. Here we go. Number 10, Emmett's Fix-It Shop sponsors the Mayberry bowling team. How much money does Emmett pay for each of the team members' shirts? Ooh, that's a long question. So Emmett's Fix-It Shop sponsors the Mayberry bowling team. How much money does Emmett pay for each of the team members' shirts? Okay, what's he pay for the shirts? All right. The answer is Emmett pays $8 for each of the team members' shirts. $8 is the correct answer, and folks in the chat room, we're getting it correct. That's from episode number 224. If you got it correct, that's a color episode, so really pat yourself on your back. You got that a little? There you go. Congratulations. That is the final question for round number 2. All right. So we're getting ready to play the final question. So the final question, whatever your point total is, the chat room is adding up their points. So whatever amount of points you currently have, you can wager up to that number. If you had a negative score, well, just play for fun and pride. This is all for pride at this point. All right, everybody ready? Here we go. Lydia in the chat room says she doesn't gamble. She doesn't go out in the sun either. All right. Here's the final question. So make your wagers. It's all in the honor system anyway. Here we go. The final question. How long did shy Mayberian Henry Gilly date Tyler Lee Vernon before he finally got up the nerve to propose? How long did shy Mayberian Henry Gilly date Tyler Lee Vernon before he finally got up the nerve to propose? All right, so write your answer down. You've got your answer there. You've got your wager. You know now that here's how long it was, by the way. Shy Mayberian Henry Gilley, he dated Tyler Lee Vernon for 16 years before he got up the nerve to propose to her. 16 years. That's from episode number 114. Oh my goodness. 16 years. That's how long it was. All right. That is the final question for the Mayberry Days Trivia Championship rounds. Round 1, 2, and the finals. So how did you do? How did you do? The folks in the chat room are slowly adding things up. And let's see how they did. They're not reporting because they don't want to. I think I'm pretty sure Jim Sherrill did pretty good. And other folks in the chat room, how did you do? Did you do good? Mainly, did you have fun? Was it fun trying to answer these? I know this is not the fun trivia. I'll try to arrange for a fun trivia night where you actually know the answers later. Well, Leonard Blush and Miss Ellie, they scored 500. Lydia says she's got 200. Margaret has 698 points. So she had an interesting wager at some point. I don't know if it was for $2 or if she wagered enough to get up to 698. That's pretty good. Roger's got 400. JL327 in the chat room has 6 and 7/8. No, I don't think that's I'm not sure that was your score. We got several that are saying goose eggs and others that I lost count. Others don't believe in negative numbers because they're irrational. They don't like them. All right. What else have we got? Margaret only bet $2, so she had $700 going in the finals, and ended up. Now, again, we got to play differently. I'm cutting down our music here. We got to play differently than they did, but I think Jim will have to tell me. But the winning total was not very high because you have to remember everybody has to buzz in at Mayberry Days to be able to get a chance to answer. And so, even if you know the answer, you can't answer it unless you buzz in first. So the score was a very tight score. It was pretty amazing how tight the scores were this year. Great job to both. We need to give Jim and Mike Jones a big hand for the great job that they did in competing, and all the champions and everybody who actually made it to the championship round at all, past champions and the qualifiers. It was pretty amazing because you guys, if you did the qualifying round, if you haven't done it, go back and go through the qualifying round and you'll see. So Jim, he won with 1,400 points at Mayberry Days. He had 700 going into the finals and bet it all and doubled it to 1,400 points. So congratulations to Jim. Wow. And I hope you had fun. I always have fun. The trivia is always fun for me because I don't have to play. I just get to read the questions. That makes it a lot more fun. All right, so now, folks, for the treat for you, we're heading over to hear from Randy Turner with This Week in Mayberry History.
Welcome to This Week in Mayberry History, a report by special correspondent Randy Turner of the Gomer and Cooper Pyle Comic Book Literary Guild of the Mayberry Historical Society.
Continuing our celebration of the 60th anniversary of the Andy Griffith Show's debut, this week we'll keep discussing how No Time for Sergeants led to Andy being so well known. Let's look at the second half of the Broadway play version of the story. Last week, I pointed out that all the events in the TV version were covered in only the first act of the Broadway version. You'll remember that I also told you that the play even added some extra scenes, such as a framing device that begins the play that pretends the audience is attending a Colville, Georgia meeting where Will Stockdale is returned to explain how he got his medal in the Air Force. Broadway plays sometimes use double casting. The best-known modern example of this is the massive hit musical Hamilton, which uses double casting extensively. So in the first act, Daveed Diggs played Lafayette. and in the second act, he played Thomas Jefferson. The Broadway play No Time for Sergeants did the same thing, though not as stunt casting, but to simply save money. You'll also remember that I told you the play opens with a preacher who then introduces Will, who walks out on stage. That preacher was played by Don Knotts. As an extra fun fact for Mayberry fans, the Playbill program listed the cast in order of appearance, so the first two names in the program are Don Knotts and Andy Griffith. Later in the first act, during Will's classification process, he is tested for manual dexterity by a colonel who was also played by Don. I also mentioned that while Andy had spent time honing his craft in the South, he listened to a lot of radio programs as he drove his car. One of those shows was Bobby Benson and the B-Bar-B Riders. That show included Don Knotts as an elderly character named Wendy Wales. As the preacher in the opening scene of Sergeants, Don used a similar enough voice that Andy soon asked if Don was Wendy Wales. Thrilled that he was, the two formed an immediate friendship. At the conclusion of Act 1, after Sergeant King was stripped of his stripes and learned he was to be shipped off with the new recruits, Will's buddy Ben explained that cleaning the latrine was meant as a punishment job, causing Will to return the wristwatch he had at first admired and then received from Sergeant King. The second act of the play includes the events from the last third of the book, but made substantial changes. As the second act opens, Will is again speaking to the audience as though they are attending the Colville Township meeting, commenting, "Feels right good to move around after sitting so long, don't it?" He explains he and Ben ended up on the same flight crew as they were the two lowest scorers on the tests, and that King had his stripes restored and was made an orderly assisting General Bush. Will also explain that the rest of their plane's crew were also near the bottom of the class. He added, "The other crews had a nickname for ourn, only I can't say it with the ladies here." Without going into too much detail, in the book, the plane Will and Ben had been on was meant to fly to Mississippi, but thanks to the inept flight crew and navigator, ended up landing at a base in Houston after an engine failed. When the plane tried to return to base the next morning, in spite of the engine not being repaired, Will and Ben fell off the plane onto the runway as it was taking off, and then saw it crash. The tail section where they were supposed to be broke off and burst into flames. Will led the stunned Ben away, and they took a bus into town. They returned to their own base after several days of misadventure to find their fellow crew members had not only survived, but were being awarded medals of valor, while they were believed to be dead and were being honored as well. In the Broadway version, their plane instead flew over Yucca Flats, Nevada, just as an atomic bomb was detonated, and Will and Ben parachuted out of the plane. When they finally did make their way back to base in the play, just as in the book, they found the rest of the crew had survived. Rather than admit a mistake, the military brass pretended the brave crew had been flying near the detonation as part of a test. And rather than appear the fool for awarding posthumous medals to Will and Ben, who had actually survived, they instead transferred them to the infantry, which had been Ben's dream. Sergeant King again gave Will his wristwatch that Will admired so much. When Will said that he would miss him, King sarcastically answered, "Me too. I could hardly type your transfers for the tears in my eyes." After Will and Ben got their medals, King said goodbye. Seeing no harm in it, he added, "Wish I could go along with you, but that's life." Will immediately asked General Bush if King could go. As Bush blamed King for the entire incident, he thought it was a wonderful idea, and so the three privates were transferred to the infantry. As the last lines of the play, Will told the audience that was how he got his medal. He thanked the audience for being good listeners, and then looking at the wristwatch King had given him, Will added, "Well, I guess I better quit now. because Mickey Mouse got his hands way up going home time. Good night, good night. Well, that's it for this week. As always, thanks for listening. And remember to take care of one another, be careful, and take Andy's advice and go out there and act like somebody.
Thank you, Randy. Wow, he always comes up with good stuff, doesn't he? To make sure you don't miss out on any of the cool things that Randy keeps coming up with about Mayberry, send him an email at turnersgrade@gmail.com, turnersgrade@gmail.com, and he'll make sure you get all of the fun stuff he keeps coming up with. So thank you, Randy. Wow, great stuff. So that's part 5 of No Time for Sergeants. There's going to be a part 6, I'm pretty sure, because he's not finished telling the story. So it's great stuff. Folks, I hope you had a good time. I hope you, in particular, had a good time. Just going through the trivia, and whether you did well or didn't do well, maybe it'll be like some of the folks in the chat room said, maybe this will just encourage you to want to get out there and watch a few more episodes and just have a little bit more fun doing that. So we are about to head out of here. I did want to thank Tim Maccabee. He sent me some great pictures over this past weekend, and one of them was of my son when he was probably 6, 7 years old, 7 probably, with Don Knotts. A great picture that I didn't have. I have one, but not this good. So he sent me a great picture, and I just want to thank Tim for doing that. It was I got a lot of neat stuff from him recently, so thank you for doing that. Thanks to everybody for being here. I'd love to hear from you. That's right. If you'll give me a call at 888-684-8415 and let me hear about, did you like the trivia? Did you like last week about Aunt B? There's going to be some conversation coming up about that too, because some people are complaining I didn't discuss how you say aunt. Is it aunt, or ain't? I'm in the South. It's ain't B, but it's spelled A-U-N-T, ain't B. But it's anyway. We had fun with that, so we'll talk a little bit about that in the coming weeks as well. I'd love to hear from you. Like I said, 888-684-8415 to hear your voice, or email me at floyd@mayberry.com. Have a great Mayberry week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks to all our veterans out there, and we'll see you next time on Two Chairs.